Well, hello, good evening, and welcome. And today I want to start a new series where we take a look at some old games. Because, well, I've been building this 286 retro PC not just for the sake of it, but because I want to play the old games that I used to play back in the day, or maybe even new ones that we can get our hands on, as well as play some stuff on the MegaDrive. You've seen that in one of the earlier videos, but I will do more elaborate videos on that. And I have still a few big box games left from my youth, so to speak. I had a much bigger collection because I got, when I was older, I got inherited quite a bunch of big box games from a friend who didn't need them anymore. And yeah, most of them I think got lost, given away, thrown away during the moves, etc. Which is very sad, but well, they're just stuff. But I have a few left, and I like them very much. And today we start with a more exotic one. This is Eric the Unready. It's made by Legend Entertainment. I think in one form or the other they still exist as some game studio under one of the big labels probably. But they actually have a pretty interesting history. Maybe I can put together some documentation at one point, but that's probably a lot of work, and there are probably other YouTubers who are better equipped to do that than me. But fact is that a lot of people working at Legend are of former Infocom fame. Infocom was one of the first video game companies. They would produce so-called text adventures. Nowadays they are mostly called interactive fiction games, which was the original title that Infocom gave them, because basically they are books that you can play. They are really with a lot of text. Legend knew that they had to change something, and they would put in a lot of graphics, and this is one of the latest and one of the last text adventures to be released in commercial form, I would say, in a big box. It's from 1993, and it already got like VGA graphics, 256 colors, but also very nice high-res 16 color graphics, like this one here. And yeah, we will see that later in the video, because the VGA card can actually display quite nice pictures using the 16 color mode, because it can choose from basically a palette of 260,000 colors. And I think this thing here is maybe, let's take a look at the side. Yeah, it's even EGA compatible. So they probably resorted to using only the 64 EGA colors. Most DOS games used only the 16 CGA colors for compatibility, but high-res EGA graphics were allowed to use 16 out of 64. That's why the pictures don't look so crappy for the time. We'll see that later. The good thing about, or the nice thing about big box games is they are nice to look at. They have huge, big artworks. This copy is already, I bought it when it came out, so it's 25 years old. It got a bit roughened up here and there. And compared to former Infocom releases, the box comes with surprisingly little stuff. It's got a big cardboard inset. And what we have here is basically the diskettes, which I won't open now. It's 4 diskettes, so due to the graphics, it really takes quite a few megabytes on hard disk. Yeah, we don't need them. You can get these games from certain sites, which I won't link to. You get the game manual, and you get the Legend Entertainment catalog of games that they have. We'll probably take a look at some of the other games in here as well during the course of the series. They are all, in my opinion, great games. They have sound support, although the music in the background gets a bit tedious at times. And they have mouse support and graphics support. You will see what it will look like. One of my favorite games and one of my favorite books is this year, Frederick Pohl's Gateway, a very nice science fiction novel, or I think it's a trilogy or something of books. Yeah, very interesting. We will come to that in a future episode. And we have the spellcasting series. This is iteration 3 by Steve Maretsky, who is also of Infocom fame. They just got some like Larry Leffer style humor. Lots of barely clothed females, and basically you're a sorcerer, a nerd basically, who attends university and is not very popular with anyone, I guess. And yeah, the hero basically gets into all kinds of weird situations, but he will be the hero after all. Eric the Unready is what we have here. Fantasy game, also absolutely, weird humor, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy style. Probably not my humor today anymore that much, but it's quite entertaining still. Time Quest, never played that. Will do, definitely. That's basically crime game with time travel. Very nice. And of course the old spellcasting series. And that's basically it. Legend was founded, I think, like in the late 80s. And then they came out with a couple of these games. They turned to more graphic adventures later on as well. I think Shannara was one of their more successful adventure series. Never played those either, because those were pretty uncommon here in Germany, and especially because those were never translated. Those are definitely only available in English. And also explaining what a legend adventure game actually is pretty important. This here is the copy protection. You need to type in those numbers at some point in the game. If you don't have the manual, you basically can't continue the game. Yeah, introduction, what you can do. Basically, you can use either the mouse, but that's a bit weird. You will see that. Or type in sentences basically to do stuff. Like here, examine the rope, take the rope, put egg in backpack, talk to Howard, etc. It sounds more dreary, probably, than it is. If you like reading books, this is the natural progression to computers, basically. And you have to solve a lot of puzzles and players and words in this thing here. Yeah, a lot of sound cards are supported. AdLib, yeah, we have our AdLib here. Roland devices are supported, so if I already had the MIDI device, I could hook up the SC55, but I have not yet such a thing. And here you see the game interface gets explained and how to set up your Roland interface. So it's pretty neat. A lot of introductory stuff, how to save and load credits, things to try at the start of the game. I think this is much more than you get with most of today's games. Yeah, so let's put that aside, and then we'll have a look at the actual game, shall we? The game presents itself with a hybrid interface. Traditional text input is possible, as was used with the classic Infocom games, for example. But also the mouse can be used. On the left half of the screen there's a list of verbs that are currently usable in this room, as well as the nouns or objects that make sense. On the top left there are buttons for UI setup and for moving around, mainly on the compass, as you can see. This is actually a neat device, even when only using text input, since it makes it much easier to navigate through the game world. The Legend games also come with a built-in mapping function, which can be activated by pressing F6. Usually when playing interactive fiction, the player would draw up a map with pen and paper. This is not necessary anymore, thanks to this function. While in my opinion it takes a bit of the atmosphere, it's a nice function. Of course, you can still take a sheet of paper and a pencil and draw your own map. The puzzles in the game are more or less sound and logical, even if they are at times relying on puns and some pop culture knowledge. There's one instance that comes to my mind where you have to get some roddenberries while dealing with some very Star Trek-y people. Did you get that reference? If not, you will probably have a hard time with this game. More simple references are, for example, the magic beanstalk, which you can plant and water to get to the wizard at the top of the village tower. The game uses an in-game clock that advances 1 minute for every sentence you successfully execute. Some in-game events are time-bound, so you should save quite regularly, otherwise you might have to redo a lot of stuff if you find out that you are in a dead end or out of time. But for the most part, the game gives you ample time to fulfill your missions and it's quite hard to mess up. Personally, I like to play these games in the half-screen mode, where the verbs and nouns are hidden, but the compass rose and the graphics are still visible. While the textual description is nice, the prose of the game is not on the level of more elaborate games such as Trinity, or of contemporary IF titles like Photopia, Hadean Lands or Galatea. Hence, the pictures can help set the mood better, plus there's a lot of artwork in the game that is very nicely drawn and that utilizes the 16-color mode very well. As I mentioned, the humor of the game is very much up to taste. I liked the game back when I was a kid, but nowadays I prefer a bit less slapstick, less pop culture references, and maybe a bit darker humor. But it's really a matter of taste, and the story of the game is still more or less captivating, nevertheless. A nice gimmick are the newspapers that can be found throughout the game. They are not only a mere device to make the player chuckle, but they contain background information of the game, world, and also some hints and bits of extra information that can help you finish the game. The game itself runs reasonably well on a 286 machine with 12 MHz. Apart from the intro animation and a few cutscenes, it will probably even run fine on 8 MHz and would probably run fine on an XT if it weren't compiled as a 286 program. It supports EGA and VGA graphics, which is nice, and AdLib compatible devices for music, as well as MIDI devices. And it supports Sound Blaster or PC Speaker for digital sound effects, which are few and far between. The music is nice, but changes only little and hence can become a bit annoying. But maybe I'm just a bit spoiled by LucasArts' iMuse system. Overall, the game has aged reasonably well. The high points are the interface and graphics, and the solid parser engine. The low points would be, in my opinion, the humor and the repetitive music. Overall, I give it a score of 6 out of 10. I think there are better interactive fiction pieces out there when it comes to story and prose, but Eric is definitely on the peak of technology for interactive fiction games. Thank you for watching. Please share, like and subscribe, and until the next time, goodbye.